Hello everyone, I am Angel from Lima in Peru, and I want to tell you about this book, Italian Presence in 20th Century Peruvian Art by Nanda Leonardini, who holds a master's degree in art history and another one in Latin American art by the National Autonomous University of Mexico, and a PhD in history by the same university. Having been a professor at San Marcos University since 1994, the editorial fund of San Marcos University published this book in December last year. In 162 pages, this book aims to highlight the importance of the Italian community in Peru and of Italian artists throughout the 20th century. In the introduction, the author tells us about and kind of anecdote that she experienced. One day she became aware of her belonging to an ethnic minority, one which was not so clear. However, this very book has its origin on her 1998 thesis, The Italians and Their Influence on 19th Century Peruvian Artistic Culture. She states that she aims to show the importance of this community on Peruvian culture in the 20th century, constant but not numerous, and in order to demonstrate that, she asks 5 questions: what disciplines they worked on, who they were, who requested their artistic services, and where are those artworks now, whether we can understand their mentality through such works, and what the current relevance is. Her sources are various: interviews, news reports, magazines and documentaries in many cultural institutions in Peru. She also highlights that even though this book focuses on the 20th century, the Italian presence in our country dates back to the 16th century. She also tells us the state of the question and affirms that hers is a pioneer work. Is a pioneer research, for it focuses on the artistic aspect. Also, there have been some difficulties since a century might prove too long and there are not many sources available. This book is divided in 6 chapters. The first one is called Cultural Presence of the Italian Government and the Italian Community in Peru. Well, I have underlined something. Yeah, here. Italian immigrants, who were the biggest European colony at the time, give Lima 2 main monuments: the Museum of Italian Art and the Jorge Chávez Dardanel Monument. As you can find on pages 26, you can find a picture of the Museum of Italian Art, and it says, Gli italiani presidenti nel Perù al popolo che li ospita nel primo centenario della conquistata indipendenza. 1921. Sorry for my Italian. And on page 34, and also, you have the monument, 33, the monument to Jorge Chávez, the hero of Peruvian aviation, and a detail here. The former focusing on living artists, being a center of modern art, and the latter considered the first example of modernism in Lima, full of symbolism, rise and fall, as it happened to Mr. Chavez, as you can find in these icons. Other aspects are the scholarships provided to Peruvian students and the work of Bruno Rosselli to save our colonial and republican Balkans. As you can find the portrait of this man here. The second chapter is called Italian Artists Living in Peru. Many of them were unmentioned and discussed, such as Victor Tesaidini, Hugo Luisi, who worked at cemeteries in Lima and Huancayo. The tomb of Manuel González Prada goes against any classical style, being inspired in a huanca, a sacred stone in pre-Hispanic periods, as you can find on page 22. Victor Altissimo, painting the ceiling of the parliament, as you can find on this picture, the Parliament of Peru. And then we have Bruno Campaiola, a bronze sculpture, Graziella Laffi, who appreciated so much pre-Hispanic metal work, as you can find on page 70. She adored our pre-Hispanic tradition in that town. Ugo Camandona Perazzone was a painter, as you can find this voluptuousness shown in that painting about a mermaid. The third chapter is called Education and Art. Given the lack of a national school of fine arts, there were some private initiatives, right? Leonardo Barbieri in the 19th century, and in the 20th century, Carlo Valente, whose portrait and work we can find on page 82. Right? And Carlo Zambonelli, who was in charge of the Carlos Bacaflor Regional School of Fine Arts in the city of Arequipa, since the government of General Odria attempted to revitalize our provinces. Anna Bartolani, who studied and worked at the Pontifical Catholic University of Peru, on page 89, you can see her photograph and some of her sculptures. She believed in a teacher's mission to help the student to discover themselves. Hugo de Genzi, who opened a school to help children to improve their level of life, both through formal education and by carving wood, as you can find on page 96. Almost not known about in Peru, their work is highly appreciated in Europe. The next chapter is called Independent Italian Artists Staying Temporarily in Peru. Among others, I will mention Gonipo Raggi, who painted this amazing The Ascension of Saint Rose, the first saint in the Americas, right? Amadeo Mantellato, the allegory of the Italian culture, is a beautiful mosaic, as you can find here, at the Museum of Italian Art. Enrico Tadolini, a renowned sculptor whose masterpiece is arguably the statue in honor of Ángela Salceo de la Puente at the mausoleum of the Aventin family at the Presbítero Maestro Cemetery in Lima. I saw it and it is fascinating, I have to say. Umberto Feltrin, who travels throughout the country and is inspired to work on these sculptures. Well, you can see the models here. The yoke, the lambs, and divine harmony, located at the work of the naval heroes in the city center. There are many other artists, especially painters. You can see beautiful examples of paintings and portraits there. The fifth chapter is called Collecting and Private Art Collections. The figure of Enrico Poli is highly controversial, I must say. Enrico Poli plundered archaeological sites. He also bought and sold many artifacts belonging to pre-Hispanic Peru. As well as that, he acquired colonial paintings and other examples of religious art from convents. This questionable practice was partly corrected by his forming of a cultural association named after him. And the last chapter, which is the shortest one, it is called They Were Few But They Did a Lot. Okay, this chapter is a sort of recapitulation and conclusion, I must say. So I have to congratulate both the author, Miss Leonardini, and the editorial fund of the National University of San Marcos for such an inspiring work, and it is indeed not only a kind of homage to her own ancestors, I guess, but also a call to preserve, study, promote, and especially love our cultural heritage, which is constantly damaged, lost, plundered, neglected, and above all, ignored. I, as a Limeño, have never visited the Museum of Italian Art. I have run past the Jorge Chavez monument, taking it for granted, not hearing or listening what it screams, what it expresses. In a way, I have rediscovered my city and have concluded that it is our prerogative and duty to protect our heritage. The authorities and above all the citizens must work together. So this book is highly, highly recommended.